The chamber stretched wide enough to hold 1,000 beings, and today it held exactly that many. Ambassador David Ross clutched the datapad containing Earth's submission documents, his palms sweating despite the climate-controlled environment. Around him sat representatives from dozens of worlds, each one regarding the human delegation with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed boredom. Protocol demanded that every new species seeking membership in the Galactic Council submit a comprehensive planetary threat assessment. The document was supposed to help other species understand what dangers existed on a candidate world, what had shaped its dominant species, and what level of caution other visitors should exercise. David had spent 3 months compiling Earth's submission with a team of xenobiologists, wildlife experts, and diplomats. They had been thorough, detailed, and honest, perhaps too honest. The council speaker, a tall being named Orin, whose species resembled walking crystals, activated the central display. Images from Earth's submission began rotating above the assembly floor. A lion appeared first, golden mane rippling in savanna wind. Then a grizzly bear, massive and powerful. A great white shark cut through blue water. A timber wolf howled at an unseen moon. "These are your apex predators?" Orin asked, his tone carefully neutral. David stood, aware of every eye upon him. "Yes, Speaker. These represent some of the most dangerous creatures on our world. The lion can weigh up to 250 kilograms and hunts in coordinated groups. The bear possesses strength capable of..." Laughter interrupted him. It started in the upper sections where the Draylan delegation sat, then spread like ripples across water. Within seconds, the entire chamber echoed with alien amusement. Some beings clutched their sides. Others made sounds that David's translator struggled to interpret, but which clearly expressed hilarity. "Forgive us," said Council Member Thex, a Drallan whose purple skin flushed darker with mirth. "But you cannot be serious. These creatures are your great threats?" David felt heat rising in his face. "With respect, Council Member, these animals kill hundreds of humans every year. They are apex predators that have shaped our evolution for millions of..." "Let me show you an apex predator," Thex interrupted. The display shifted to show a creature from the Drallan homeworld. It stood 3 meters tall, covered in crystalline plates that reflected light like knives. 6 limbs ending in claws that could shred steel, eyes that glowed with bioluminescence. This is a Krethmar. It hunts in methane storms and can survive in vacuum for short periods. Its hide deflects energy weapons. It feels no fear and knows no mercy. More images appeared as other council members joined in. A serpentine beast that swam through liquid metal oceans. A flying predator with acid for blood. A pack hunter that communicated through electromagnetic pulses and could collapse its bones to fit through spaces smaller than its head. "Your shark," said another council member, barely suppressing giggles, "cannot even survive outside water. Your bear sleeps for months at a time. Your wolf weighs less than most council species infants." David's colleague, Dr. Patricia Wells, leaned close and whispered, "Maybe we should move on to the next section." But David had spent 3 months on this submission. His team had worked exhaustively to catalog Earth's dangers, to help these beings understand humanity's context. He had expected questions, perhaps concern, not mockery. "The documentation is extensive," he said, voice tight. "If the council would review the behavioral analysis, the hunting strategies, the intelligence metrics..." "Ambassador Ross," Orin said, not unkindly, "we have reviewed your submission, all 40,000 pages of it. And while we appreciate the thoroughness, we must be frank. Your world appears to be what we classify as a Class 1 environment, garden world. Minimal threats. Your species evolved in relative safety, facing challenges no more significant than most herbivore species encounter." "That's not..." David began. "Let me guess," Thex said, still chuckling. "You're going to tell us about your bear's powerful jaws? Or perhaps how your big cats can run fast for short distances?" He shook his head. "Ambassador, the Krethmar can run at 80 kilometers per hour for 3 days straight without resting. It can bite through starship hulls. It regenerates lost limbs in hours." The chamber filled with agreeing murmurs and more laughter. David looked down at his datapad, scrolling through entries they had carefully documented. Tigers, saltwater crocodiles, Komodo dragons, polar bears, box jellyfish, black mamba snakes. Each one a creature humans had learned to fear, to respect, to avoid. each one responsible for shaping human culture, mythology, and survival strategies. To the Galactic Council, they were jokes. Perhaps, Orin said diplomatically, Earth's submission would be better categorized as a children's educational display. We have museums that showcase the gentle fauna of peaceful worlds. Your creatures would be quite popular there. More laughter. David felt his jaw clench. Beside him, Patricia put a hand on his arm, a gesture urging calm. The other 3 human delegates sat silent, faces burning with embarrassment. The Council thanks you for your submission, Orin continued. We will process Earth's application for membership. However, given the minimal threat profile of your homeworld, we may need to reconsider the defense considerations and resource allocations initially proposed. Code words. David understood them perfectly. Earth would be considered weak, easy prey, a species that had never truly struggled, never truly fought, never truly survived anything worth mentioning. Every treaty, every trade agreement, every diplomatic negotiation would be colored by this assessment. We request a recess, David said stiffly. Granted. We reconvene in 3 days. The human delegation filed out as laughter continued behind them. In the corridor, Patricia finally spoke. That was a disaster. David didn't answer. He was already scrolling through the submission again, wondering where they had gone wrong. The document was accurate. Everything in it was true. Earth did have these predators. They were dangerous. They had shaped humanity. But compared to the nightmares that apparently lurked on other worlds, Earth's terrors seemed quaint, domesticated, safe. He stopped scrolling randomly and stared at an entry that appeared on his screen. A small creature, barely 12 kilograms. Compact body, short legs, small eyes. Malivera capensis. Honey badger. David had approved its inclusion in the database but hadn't paid it much attention. After all, they were highlighting the impressive predators first. The lions and bears and sharks that would command respect. He tapped the entry closed and pocketed the datapad. 3 days until they faced the Council again. 3 days to figure out how to make them understand that humanity was not weak, not soft, not prey. 3 days to salvage Earth's reputation. He just had no idea how. The video started playing across galactic networks before the human delegation even reached their quarters. Someone had recorded the presentation, edited it down to the most embarrassing moments, and added mocking commentary. Within hours, Earth's predator list had become the most viewed entertainment content in Council space. David saw it first when his communications officer, Ben Taylor, rushed into the delegation suite with his tablet extended. Sir, you need to see this. The video showed a lion roaring, majestic and powerful. Then it cut to a Krethmar tearing through solid metal with its claws. A voiceover said one of these is an apex predator. The other is a large cat that humans keep as house pets in miniature form. They don't understand the scale difference, Patricia muttered, watching over David's shoulder. That's a lion, not a house cat. But the video wasn't interested in accuracy. It cut to the great white shark next, showing it breaching to catch a seal. Then it showed some alien creature swimming through what looked like molten rock. Earth, where the scariest thing in the ocean can't even survive on land. How terrifying. The view's counter kept climbing. 50 million, 75 million, 100 million across dozens of species and worlds. By the next morning, Earth had become a punchline. Comedy programs across the galaxy featured sketches about human predators. One popular show depicted actors in bear costumes running away from butterflies. Another showed aliens visiting Earth and being disappointed that the terrifying wolves were just fluffy dogs that howl. David stopped watching after the third program. His communications console showed 217 messages from Earth, all asking the same questions. What went wrong? How could you embarrass us like this? What happens now? He had no answers. Dr. Halrim's scientific paper appeared on the 4th day. The Draylan xenobiologist had apparently decided that mocking Earth's submission wasn't enough. He needed to publish an academic takedown. The paper's title made David's blood pressure spike. Comparative Analysis of Threat Submissions, Why Earth's Fauna Represents the Weakest Predator Class in Recorded Galactic History. Patricia read sections aloud while David paced their small conference room. He calls the grizzly bear a seasonal hibernator with limited hunting capacity. The wolf is described as a pack-dependent scavenger weighing less than standard cargo units. And apparently, our great white shark is an obligate aquatic feeder, with environmental limitations rendering it non-threatening to any spacefaring species. He's not wrong on the technical facts, Ben admitted quietly. Just the context, David spun on him. The context is everything. Humans didn't evolve in space. We evolved on Earth with these creatures. They shaped us, made us what we are. I know, sir. I'm just saying that from their perspective is that we're weak. Prey, not worth respecting. The formal complaint arrived that afternoon. Council Secretary Vorn, speaking on behalf of 16 member species, suggested that Earth's submission had wasted valuable counsel, resources, and processing time. They requested that humanity submit a formal apology for the frivolous documentation and consider withdrawing their application until they had more substantial credentials for membership. David crumpled the message in his fist. 23 years of diplomatic service, and he had never felt rage quite like this. Not at the aliens for their mockery, but at the situation itself. How could he make them understand? How could he translate Earth's reality into terms these beings would respect? Patricia found him in the observation deck that evening, staring at the distant blue marble of Earth through the station's massive windows. The team is suggesting we withdraw, she said softly. Go home. Wait a decade or two and try again with a different approach. And say what differently? Our world is what it is. Our predators are what they are. Maybe we emphasize human achievements instead. Technology, art, culture. Prove our worth without relying on our planet's fauna. David shook his head. They need to understand where we came from. What made us? You can't separate humanity from Earth, and you can't separate Earth from its creatures. Then we're stuck. They stood in silence, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Somewhere down there, lions hunted antelope on African plains. Bears caught salmon in Alaskan rivers. Wolves howled in frozen forests. Sharks patrolled warm coastal waters, all of them going about their lives, unaware that they had become the galaxy's favorite joke. Meanwhile, in a small research station on the opposite side of the Council orbital platform, a junior xenobiologist named Arya was still reading. She had been assigned to process Earth's full submission, all 40,000 pages, and unlike the Council members who had skimmed the highlights, she was actually going through it methodically. The work was tedious. Entry after entry of creatures, each one carefully documented with images, behavioral notes, threat assessments, and incident reports. She had processed the big predators quickly, understanding why the Council had found them unimpressive. Compared to the galaxy's true apex predators, Earth's offering seemed quaint. But Arya was thorough. It was why she had this job despite being young and inexperienced. She didn't skip entries. She didn't assume. She read everything. She was 20,000 pages deep when she noticed something odd. The documentation style had changed. The early entries, the ones the Council had reviewed, were written in formal diplomatic language. Lots of scientific terminology, careful phrasing, obvious attempts to make Earth's fauna sound impressive. But deeper in the document, the writing became more clinical, direct. These entries read less like diplomatic submissions and more like warning labels. Arya pulled up entry number 7847, Canis lupus familiaris, domestic dog. She almost skipped it, assuming it would be even less threatening than the wolves the Council had mocked. But something in the introduction caught her attention. Note, while domesticated for approximately 30,000 years, this species retains significant predatory capability and has been responsible for approximately 25,000 human fatalities per year, primarily due to pack behavior and territorial aggression. Exercise extreme caution when encountering unfamiliar specimens. Arya read it again. A domesticated species killed 25,000 humans yearly, and humans kept them anyway? In their homes? She started reading faster, jumping between entries. Domestic cats, small enough to hold in one hand, were described as efficient hunters capable of killing multiple prey items daily. Rats were highly adaptable urban survivors with remarkable intelligence and social structures. Even the herbivores had notes about aggression and defensive capabilities that could prove fatal. The picture emerging was different from what the Council had seen. Not a world of weak predators, but a world where danger existed at every level, where humans had to navigate constant threats, large and small, and had somehow survived long enough to develop civilization. Arya worked through the night. By morning, she was 35,000 pages deep, and her coffee had gone cold 3 times. The entries in this section were even more disturbing. Creatures that didn't look dangerous but carried venom that could kill in minutes, parasites that hijacked host behavior, bacteria and viruses that had shaped human evolution as much as any predator. Earth wasn't a garden world. It was a battlefield. And then at page 36,429, Arya found an entry that made her stop breathing. Mellivora capensis. Common name honey badger. Arya rubbed her tired eyes and focused on the entry. At first glance, it seemed like another unremarkable creature. The honey badger measured only 70 centimeters long and weighed around 12 kilograms, smaller than most species' infants, as the council had joked about Earth's wolves. The accompanying image showed a stocky animal with black and white coloring, short legs and small eyes. It looked almost cute. Then she started reading the behavioral documentation. Mellivora capensis exhibits unprecedented aggression relative to body size. Subject demonstrates no fear response to creatures hundreds of times its mass. Documented instances include unprovoked attacks on lions, leopards, hyenas, and even Cape buffalo, weighing over 800 kilograms. The species appears to lack any instinct for self-preservation when confronted. Arya sat up straighter. That couldn't be right. No creature attacked things that much larger without cause. It was evolutionary suicide. She kept reading. Physical adaptations include skin thick enough to resist most predator bites, loose enough to allow the animal to turn and attack while being held in a predator's jaws. Immune system shows remarkable resistance to venom from snakes, scorpions, and bees. Claws capable of digging through concrete. Jaw strength disproportionate to body size, capable of crushing tortoise shells. The entry continued for 3 pages. 3 pages for a 12-kilogram animal. By comparison, the lion entry had been 2 pages. The grizzly bear had been 2.5. Arya opened the attached incident reports. There were hundreds of them. Incident Report 1547. Honey badger breaks into military storage facility. Consumes rations. Fights off 3 armed guards attempting capture. Escapes through ventilation system. Status: uncaptured. Incident Report 309. Honey badger attacks beehive defended by thousands of bees, sustains hundreds of stings, consumes entire hive contents over 4 hours. No apparent lasting effects observed. Incident Report 3891. Honey badger bitten by Cape cobra, one of Africa's deadliest snakes. Subject shows paralysis symptoms for approximately 2 hours, then regains consciousness and proceeds to consume the snake. Full recovery within 5 hours. Arya felt her translator struggling with some of the human idioms in the reports. Words like fearless, relentless, unstoppable, and insane appeared repeatedly. One researcher had simply written, "It doesn't care. About anything. It just doesn't care." She pulled up the attached video files. The first showed a honey badger approaching a pride of 6 lions. The lions had just made a kill. By all logical behavior patterns, the small creature should have fled or hidden. Instead, it walked directly toward them, growling. The lions looked confused. One swatted at it. The honey badger twisted in its loose skin, bit the lion's paw, and drove all 6 predators away from their kill. Then it ate until it was satisfied and wandered off. The second video was worse. A honey badger encountered a puff adder, a snake whose venom caused massive tissue damage and was often fatal to humans. The snake struck, fangs sinking deep into the honey badger's face. The creature barely reacted. It killed the snake, ate half of it, then appeared to lose consciousness. Venom-induced paralysis, the video caption explained. Subject will remain unconscious for 1 to 2 hours while immune system processes toxins. Arya watched as the honey badger lay still for 93 minutes. Then, like a machine rebooting, it simply woke up, finished eating the snake, and continued on its way. The third video made her push back from her desk. It showed a honey badger that had broken into some kind of human facility. Humans were trying to contain it using nets, barriers, and electronic deterrents. The creature methodically destroyed or bypassed every obstacle. It climbed walls humans thought unclimbable. It squeezed through gaps that seemed impossibly small. It ignored sonic repellents that should have been unbearable. At one point, a human researcher said something that the translator captured. "It's not that they're fearless. Fear exists in them, we've proven that neurologically. They just don't care. The fear response doesn't stop them from doing whatever they've decided to do." Arya spent the next hour reading every piece of documentation about honey badgers. The more she learned, the less she understood how such a creature could exist. Evolution favored survival. Natural selection eliminated creatures that threw themselves at threats they couldn't defeat. Yet honey badgers had survived for millions of years specifically by doing exactly that. She cross-referenced with other Earth predators. Lions killed when hungry. Bears attacked when threatened. Sharks hunted specific prey. All logical, all predictable. Honey badgers attacked everything all the time for any reason or no reason. They fought snakes whose venom could kill elephants. They stole kills from predators that could swallow them whole. They invaded human settlements and military installations with the same casual disregard for danger. And somehow, they thrived. Arya pulled up Earth's classification in the Council database. Class 1 environment. Garden world. Minimal threats. She looked at her screen, filled with documentation about a creature that seemed specifically designed to violate every rule of sensible behavior. Then she started scrolling backwards through the submission. If the honey badger had been buried at page 36,429, what else had been overlooked? She found chimpanzees, primates like humans but with 5 times the strength and documented cases of organized lethal violence against their own species. She found orcas, ocean predators that hunted in coordinated packs using complex strategies, capable of taking down creatures 10 times their size. She found leopard seals, Antarctic predators that hunted penguins and occasionally humans with equal efficiency. Further back, she found army ants that could strip an animal to bones in hours. Bullet ants whose sting caused pain compared to being shot. Parasitic wasps that hijacked other creatures' bodies. Cassowary birds that could disembowel threats with single kicks. The entries kept going. Thousands of them. Each one documented, verified, cross-referenced. Arya pulled up Earth's environmental data. Gravity standard, atmosphere, breathable, temperature, moderate. By every basic metric, Earth should have been a peaceful world. Instead, it was filled with creatures that seemed designed for maximum violence. She thought about what the Draylan biologist, Dr. Halrim, had written, that Earth's fauna represented the weakest predator class in galactic history. He had based that conclusion on the creatures in the first few hundred pages, the impressive-looking predators that Earth had put forward as their best examples. Earth hadn't put their best examples first. They had buried them in the middle of 40,000 pages of documentation. Why? Arya pulled up the Council's review process documentation. Standard procedure was to examine the first 1,000 pages in detail, then skim the remainder for anomalies. It was efficient for processing thousands of submissions from hundreds of worlds. Earth's submission followed human diplomatic standard structure. Most impressive content first, supporting documentation after. They had put the lions and bears and sharks up front because those were the creatures that looked dangerous, the creatures that would photograph well in council chambers. But the truly dangerous creatures, the ones that made no evolutionary sense, the ones that redefined what dangerous meant, those had been filed as supplementary data. Arya looked at the honey badger image again. 12 kilograms, 70 centimeters long. By council standards, barely worth noting. By its behavior, something that should not exist. She opened a new file and began drafting a report. Her hand shook slightly as she typed. This was above her clearance level. Junior xenobiologists were supposed to process data, not make interpretations that could affect council decisions, but someone needed to know. Someone needed to understand what Earth actually was. She titled the report, Reassessment Required. Earth environmental classification may be catastrophically inaccurate. Then she attached every piece of documentation about the honey badger she could find and sent it directly to Council Security. The secure message reached Council Security at 0300 station time. By 0600, 3 senior analysts had reviewed Arya's report. By 0900, the Council Security Committee had convened an emergency classified session. By noon, David Ross received a message he never expected to see. Your presence is required immediately. Council Security Committee. Priority Alpha. Priority Alpha meant potential threat to Council security. David had never heard of a candidate species receiving such a designation. He grabbed Patricia and Ben, and they rushed to the secure conference facility in the station's central hub. The room was smaller than the Grand Council chambers, designed for serious work rather than political theater. 15 committee members sat in a semicircle, their expressions grim. At the center table sat Arya, looking terrified and exhausted. "Ambassador Ross," said Committee Chair Dren, a species that resembled a floating collection of tentacles in a containment suit. "Thank you for your prompt arrival. We have questions about your world submission." David's stomach dropped. More questions meant more mockery. "Yes, Chair?" "Specifically, we have questions about an entry your delegation made regarding a creature called a honey badger." David blinked. Of all the entries they could ask about, that was the last one he expected. "The honey badger? That's a relatively small mustelid that—" "We know what it is," Dren interrupted. "We have spent the morning reviewing the documentation. What we need to understand is why this entry was placed at page 36,429 of your submission, rather than in the primary threat assessment section." Patricia leaned forward. "With respect, Committee, we structured our submission according to diplomatic standard format. Large predators first, smaller fauna in supporting documentation. The honey badger is only 12 kilograms. We assumed wrong," said another committee member, a being named Rel, whose species had 4 eyes and scaled skin. "We have reviewed this creature's behavioral profile. Nothing in our databases matches its aggression-to-size ratio. Nothing." Arya spoke up, her voice shaky but determined. "I've been a xenobiologist for 3 years. I've processed submissions from 217 worlds. Every species follows logical behavioral patterns. Predators hunt when hungry. They defend when threatened. They retreat when outmatched. This creature ignores all of those patterns." She activated the central display, showing the video of a honey badger fighting off 6 lions. The committee members watched in silence. "The prey-to-predator size ratio in this footage is approximately 1:40, Arya continued. "By any reasonable evolutionary model, the smaller creature should flee or hide. Instead, it attacks, and succeeds." "We've seen aggressive species before," Dren said slowly. "But they have reasons. Defending young, protecting territory. This creature appears to attack simply because it exists." David found his voice. "The honey badger is an extreme example, but it's not unique on Earth. Many of our species exhibit aggressive behavior disproportionate to their size or threat level." "Show us," Dren commanded. For the next hour, David and Patricia presented material from the deeper sections of Earth's submission. They showed chimpanzees, humanity's closest genetic relatives, and documented cases of them tearing rivals apart with their bare hands. They showed orcas using sophisticated hunting techniques to kill great white sharks, specifically targeting their livers. They showed saltwater crocodiles that could wait motionless for hours before exploding into violent action. "But these are still predators," Committee Member Thek said. He was the same Draylen who had mocked Earth's submission in the main council. Now his voice held no humor. "They hunt. They kill to eat. That's normal." "Then let me show you something that isn't normal," David said. He pulled up entry after entry of creatures that weren't predators at all. Hippos that killed more humans than lions. Cape buffalo that actively hunted and killed humans who had threatened them previously, showing memory and intent for revenge. Cassowary birds that could disembowel with a single kick, despite being herbivores. "Your herbivores attack?" Rel asked, stunned. "Everything on Earth attacks if pushed," Patricia said quietly. "That's what we've been trying to explain. Our world isn't divided into simple predator and prey categories. It's a constant competition for survival at every level." David pulled up environmental data. Earth has moderate gravity, breathable atmosphere, stable temperature zones. By every standard metric, it should be a peaceful world. Instead, every ecological niche is filled with competition. Predators compete with other predators. Prey species develop defensive capabilities that make them dangerous. Even the plants are hostile. We have trees that can kill you if you stand under them. Flowers that will blind you if you touch them. Grass that can cut like knives. He showed them Australia's fauna specifically. Snakes that could kill with a single bite. Spiders whose venom caused excruciating pain. Jellyfish that rendered humans unconscious in seconds. Octopi small enough to fit in your hand that carried enough poison to kill dozens of adults. And humans live with all of this? Dren asked. Humans evolved with all of this, David corrected. We're not the strongest species on our planet, not the fastest, not the best swimmers or climbers or fighters. But we survived because we learned to adapt, to think, to plan. Every human instinct, every cultural development, every technological advancement came from trying to survive on a world that was actively trying to kill us. He pulled up human evolutionary history. Stone tools developed to fight off predators. Fire mastered to keep dangers at bay. Complex language evolved to warn others of threats. Agriculture developed because hunting was dangerous. Civilization built behind walls because the outside world was hostile. We didn't conquer Earth, Patricia added. We made peace with it, or tried to. We domesticated some creatures, drove others to extinction, built barriers between us and the worst threats. But they're still there. Every human child learns which creatures to avoid, which plants not to touch, which areas are too dangerous to enter. Thex had been silent throughout the presentation. Now he spoke, and his voice was different from the mocking tone he had used before. What about your warfare? We reviewed that section only briefly, assuming it was standard intraspecies conflict. David hesitated. What about it? Show us. Patricia exchanged a glance with David, then pulled up the historical files. The committee watched footage of human conflicts spanning thousands of years. The tactics, the weapons, the strategies. The sheer scale of violence humans had directed at each other. You fight each other the way you fight everything else, Rel observed. Constantly, adaptively, without restraint when threatened. We evolved on a death world, David said simply. We learned to survive by any means necessary. Those instincts didn't disappear when we started fighting each other instead of predators. Dren was silent for a long moment. Chair recognizes Dr. Halrim. The Drylan biologist who had written the mocking paper stood slowly. His expression was difficult to read, but his body language suggested discomfort. I must formally apologize, Ambassador Ross. My analysis was based on preliminary data only. I did not understand the full context of your world's evolutionary pressure. David wanted to feel vindicated. Instead, he felt tired. Does the committee understand now? Earth isn't weak. It's a constant battlefield. Humans aren't soft. We're survivors. Everything we've achieved came from learning to live on a world that never stopped trying to kill us. We understand, Dren said slowly. And we need to reassess everything. Not just Earth's classification, but what it means that a species from such a world is seeking council membership. Thex spoke up. The honey badger doesn't stop when threatened. It doesn't negotiate, it doesn't retreat. It fights until it wins or dies. He looked directly at David. Are humans the same? The question hung in the air. David thought about human history, about how humanity had faced every obstacle, every threat, every disaster, and refused to surrender, about how humans had climbed to the top of Earth's food chain not through strength, but through sheer bloody-minded determination to keep going no matter what. Yes, he said quietly. When pushed, we don't stop. We survived the honey badger's world. That should tell you everything you need to know about what we're capable of. The committee members looked at each other. David could see the reassessment happening in real time, understanding replacing contempt. This session is adjourned, Dren said. We will reconvene the full council in 3 days for a formal reassessment of Earth's classification and membership application. As they filed out, Arya approached David nervously. Ambassador, I hope I didn't cause problems. I just thought someone needed to know. You did exactly the right thing, David assured her. Thank you for actually reading our submission. She smiled weakly. I never imagined a 12-kilogram creature could change everything. David looked at the frozen image of a honey badger still displayed on the screen, its small form somehow containing more attitude than creatures 10 times its size. Welcome to Earth, he said. 3 weeks later, David stood in a testing facility that had been hastily constructed on a moon orbiting the council station. The structure resembled an enormous arena, with observation galleries protected by force fields rated to contain military-grade weapons. Council members filled the seats, hundreds of them, drawn by rumors of what Earth was about to demonstrate. The mockery had stopped. In its place was something David found almost more unsettling: cautious curiosity mixed with genuine concern. Earth's wildlife had gone from galactic joke to potential threat in less than a month. Now the Council wanted proof that the threat was real. Patricia stood beside him, reviewing a data pad. The wildlife specialist just confirmed all specimens are secured and healthy. They're ready when you are. How's the honey badger? According to the handlers, and I quote, extremely angry and definitely ready to demonstrate why we usually wear protective gear around him. They've named him Henry. David would have smiled if he weren't so nervous. This demonstration could determine Earth's future in the Galactic Council. Show too little and the Council would dismiss them again. Show too much, and Earth might be classified as a threat rather than a candidate for membership. Speaker Oren's voice echoed through the facility. The Council recognizes Ambassador Ross of Earth. You may begin your demonstration. David walked to the center of the arena floor, his voice amplified to reach every gallery. Thank you, Speaker. Today we will demonstrate the capabilities of several Earth species. We appreciate the Council's willingness to witness this in person, rather than through recordings alone. We require verification, Thex called out. Recordings can be altered. We need to see these creatures ourselves. Fair enough. David signaled to the control booth. A door opened in the arena wall, and a handler emerged leading a massive bird on a reinforced leash. The creature stood nearly 2 meters tall, with powerful legs ending in dagger-like claws. This is a cassowary, David explained, a flightless bird from Earth's Australia region. It weighs approximately 60 kilograms and is classified as the world's most dangerous bird. Note the claw on each foot, measuring up to 12 centimeters long. It's a herbivore, someone called from the galleries. What threat does it pose? David nodded to the handler who activated a holographic target, a simulated threat approaching the bird. The cassowary's reaction was instantaneous. It charged, covering 10 meters in seconds, and delivered a single kick to the hologram. The force sensors registered over 900 newtons of impact. That strike can disembowel an adult human, David said calmly. The cassowary doesn't hunt, but it defends its territory with lethal force. On Earth, we learned to avoid their habitats entirely. Murmurs rippled through the galleries. An herbivore that could kill. The concept seemed to disturb them. Next came a large tank containing a saltwater crocodile. The creature was only 3 meters long, relatively young by crocodile standards, but still impressive. David explained its capabilities. Bite force exceeding 16,000 newtons. Ability to hold prey underwater until it drowned. Patience to wait motionless for hours until prey approached. It doesn't look fast, Rel observed. The handler tossed a large piece of meat into the water at the far end of the tank. The crocodile, which had been floating near the viewing window, exploded into motion. It crossed the tank in less than 2 seconds, jaws snapping shut on the meat with devastating force. They only appear slow, David said. When motivated, they're among Earth's fastest ambush predators. The demonstrations continued. An octopus displayed problem-solving abilities that impressed even the most skeptical council members, escaping from a sealed container in under 3 minutes. A cobra demonstrated the distance and accuracy of its strike, hitting a target 2 meters away in less than a second. A large eagle swooped down from the arena ceiling, its talons strong enough to crush the simulated bones in a sensor-laden dummy. Each demonstration was carefully controlled and monitored. The creatures were never stressed beyond acceptable limits, and handlers remained close to ensure safety. But the message was clear. Earth's fauna was diverse, capable, and dangerous. Finally, David called for the last demonstration. Honored council members, we've shown you predators and defensive capabilities. Now we'd like to show you something that defies easy classification. This is Henry, a honey badger. The small enclosure wheeled onto the arena floor seemed almost comical after the impressive displays that had come before. Inside, a black and white creature barely larger than a house cat paced back and forth. It looked unimpressive, almost cute. The galleries erupted in whispers. After all the build-up, this was what Earth had saved for last? I understand your skepticism, David said. Henry weighs 11.3 kilograms. He's 71 centimeters long. By any physical metric, He should be one of Earth's least threatening creatures, David signaled to the handlers. They had constructed a complex obstacle course in the center of the arena. It included walls coated with the same slippery material used on Council starship hulls. Electronic deterrents that emitted sounds and pulses specifically calibrated to be unpleasant to Earth mammals. Barriers made from materials that should be impossible for a creature of Henry's size to breach. At the far end of the course sat a sealed container filled with Henry's favorite food. The challenge is simple, David explained. Can Henry reach the food? Every barrier in this course is designed to stop a creature of his size and capabilities. We're using the same standards the Council applies to containment protocols for dangerous fauna. They released Henry from his enclosure. For a moment he stood still, sniffing the air. Then he oriented on the food container and began moving. The first barrier was a smooth wall 3 meters high. Henry reached it, examined it for approximately 5 seconds, then began climbing. His claws found purchases invisible to the watching crowd. He scaled the wall in under a minute. The wall material should be unclimbable, Rel said, confused. Should be, Patricia agreed. Henry doesn't care about should be. The second barrier was an electronic deterrent field. The frequencies it emitted were designed to be painful to mammalian hearing. Henry walked straight through it without slowing. His ears flattened slightly, the only indication that he even noticed the field. Is the field functioning? Thex demanded. Operating at full power, a technician confirmed. He's just ignoring it. The third barrier was a cage made of reinforced polymer, the same material used in Council containment facilities. It had a small opening at the top, far too small for Henry to fit through. Henry examined the cage for 10 seconds. Then he started digging. His claws, designed for excavating termite mounds in African soil, tore through the arena floor. Within 5 minutes he had tunneled under the cage and emerged on the other side. That floor is rated for heavy equipment, someone said weakly. He's a honey badger, David replied. He digs through concrete for fun. The fourth barrier was a maze deliberately complex, designed to confuse animals and force them to navigate using trial and error. Henry entered the maze, explored 3 dead ends, then simply climbed the maze walls, crossed the top and dropped down at the exit. He's problem-solving, Arya noted from her seat in the galleries, adapting to each challenge instead of using instinct alone. The final barrier was the container itself. It was sealed with a locking mechanism that required 3 separate actions in the correct sequence to open. No Earth creature except humans should have been able to figure it out. Henry examined the container for 30 seconds. Then he bit the corner where 2 panels met, got his claws into the tiny gap and simply ripped the panel off. The locking mechanism tumbled out, useless. Henry reached in and extracted his reward. The galleries were silent. 15 minutes, David said quietly. 15 minutes to defeat 5 barriers designed by Council engineers to be impassable. And Henry wasn't even particularly motivated. If he had been protecting territory or responding to a threat, he would have been faster. He gestured to where Henry was eating, completely unconcerned by the watching crowd of aliens. This is a prey animal by Earth standards, not an apex predator, just a mid-level omnivore trying to survive on our world, and he represents the standard, not the exception. David pulled up a final display showing Earth from orbit. Every ecosystem on this planet operates like Henry. Constant competition, constant adaptation, constant pressure to evolve or die. Humans didn't just survive this environment, we thrived in it. We learned to think like Earth thinks. Every challenge is solvable if you're willing to do whatever it takes. He turned to face the galleries directly. You asked if humans are like the honey badger. Do we keep going when threatened? Do we refuse to back down? Do we find solutions even when the situation seems impossible? David thought about human history, about species that had driven humans to near extinction, that humans had then hunted to extinction in return, about ice ages survived, diseases conquered, disasters overcome, about how humanity had clawed its way from prey species to dominant species through nothing but sheer determination. Yes, he said simply, we're exactly like Henry. We evolved to be exactly like Henry, because on Earth anything that wasn't like Henry died. Speaker Oren's voice was thoughtful. Ambassador Ross, you've made your point. We will deliberate on these findings. As the galleries emptied, Arya approached David again. That was remarkable. Terrifying, but remarkable. David watched as handlers carefully coaxed Henry back into his enclosure. The honey badger went willingly, having gotten what he wanted. He'd made his point too. The scary part, David said, is that Henry's just one example. We brought him because he's dramatic. But Earth has thousands of species just as determined, just as adaptable, just as unwilling to quit. That's what a death world produces. And humanity survived it all, Arya said softly. Not just survived. We made pets of some of them, food of others. We built our civilization on a world that never stopped fighting back. David smiled slightly. Welcome to Understanding Earth. The Grand Council chamber felt different this time. When David entered with his delegation, there was no laughter. No dismissive whispers. The representatives watched the humans with expressions ranging from respect to visible wariness. Some even moved slightly away as the Earth delegation passed, as if proximity itself posed a threat. David took his position at the central platform, Patricia and Ben flanking him. The gallery seats were full. News of the demonstration had spread throughout council space, and everyone wanted to witness Earth's formal reclassification. Speaker Oren called the session to order, his crystalline form refracting the chamber lights into subtle rainbows. This council convenes to address the matter of Earth's classification and membership application. We have reviewed the comprehensive evidence presented over the past weeks. We have witnessed demonstrations of Earth fauna capabilities. We have consulted our xenobiologists, security analysts, and cultural experts. He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle over the chamber. We made an error, a significant error, and the council acknowledges this formally and publicly. Murmurs rippled through the galleries. Formal council admissions of error were rare. Earth was initially classified as a Class 1 environment, based on preliminary assessment of atmospheric conditions, gravity, and surface imagery. This classification suggested a garden world with minimal evolutionary pressure and weak fauna. That classification was wrong. Oren activated the central display. Earth appeared, rotating slowly, beautiful and blue. After comprehensive review, the Council has determined that Earth meets all criteria for Class 4 environmental designation. The highest category, a death world. The term echoed through the chamber. Death world. The classification reserved for planets where survival required constant adaptation, where evolutionary pressure never ceased, where every species faced elimination if it failed to compete. The criteria for Class 4 are specific, Oren continued. Multiple hostile biomes, predation pressure at all trophic levels, environmental challenges requiring sophisticated adaptation, evolutionary arms races between competing species, and fauna that exhibits capabilities disproportionate to their physical parameters. Images appeared above the chamber floor. Lions, sharks, honey, badgers, cassowaries, crocodiles, hundreds of Earth species cycling past. Earth meets every criterion. Indeed, it exceeds them. The sheer diversity of threats on this world is unprecedented in our records. More than that, the behavioral patterns exhibited by Earth fauna suggest an environment that has been consistently hostile for millions of years. This is not a world that became dangerous. This is a world that has always been dangerous. Thex stood, requesting recognition. Speaker, if I may address the council? At Oren's nod, he continued. I must personally apologize to Ambassador Ross and the human delegation. My initial assessment was not merely wrong, it was dangerously wrong. I evaluated Earth's submission using assumptions drawn from typical Class 1 worlds. I did not consider that a world could appear peaceful while being actively lethal. He turned to face David directly. More than that, I failed to consider what it means that humans evolved on such a world. Every other Class 4 world in our records is uninhabited by sapient species. The environmental pressure is too great for complex civilization to develop. Earth is the first death world to produce a spacefaring species. That statement hung in the air like a thunderclap. David hadn't fully considered that implication. Humans were unique not just for surviving Earth, but for building civilization while surviving Earth. This raises important questions, said Council Member Rel. Humans developed agriculture despite predation pressure, built cities despite environmental hazards, created art, science, and philosophy while constantly fighting for survival. How? David took a breath. This was the moment to help them understand. Because we had to. Earth didn't give us the option of peaceful development. Every advance we made had to be defended. Every resource we gathered had to be protected. We developed complex societies because cooperation was the only way to survive. We created weapons not for warfare, but to defend against creatures that saw us as food. We built walls before we built temples. He pulled up images of early human history, cave paintings showing hunters and the animals they feared, ancient settlements with defensive barriers, tools designed as much for protection as for crafting. Humanity's entire culture is built on survival strategies. We tell stories to teach our children which dangers to avoid. We create laws to organize our defense. We develop technology to give us advantages we don't have naturally. Every human instinct, from cooperation to innovation to stubbornness, comes from Earth's pressure. Patricia added, and we learned from the creatures around us. We observed how honey badgers never quit, and we adopted that trait. We watched wolves hunt in packs, and we developed teamwork. We saw how predators adapted to challenges, and we learned to adapt faster. Earth didn't just shape our bodies, it shaped our minds. Which brings us to the central question, Oren said. What does humanity's death world origin mean for council membership? Silence. Every representative seemed to be calculating, weighing, considering. It means, David said carefully, that humanity understands survival in ways that species from peaceful worlds may not. We know how to face threats, how to adapt under pressure, how to keep going when logic says to quit. These traits made us survivors on Earth. They can make us valuable allies in the galaxy. Or, someone called from the galleries, they make you dangerous. Death world species don't know when to stop fighting. David met the challenge directly. We also learned when cooperation serves us better than conflict. Earth taught us that lesson too. Humans who fought each other constantly didn't survive long. We learned to form alliances, to trade, to negotiate. We're not just survivors, we're diplomats who understand the value of peace. Because you had to be, Arya said from her seat, speaking without formal recognition but not being silenced. Every human city-state that refused to cooperate eventually fell to one that did. Your history is full of failed isolationists and successful cooperators. Earth didn't just teach you to fight. It taught you when fighting was worth the cost. Oren consulted with the other council leaders for several minutes. Finally, he spoke again. The council has reached a decision. Earth is formally reclassified as a Class 4 environment. This classification comes with specific protocols and considerations. He listed them methodically. Increased security clearances for human diplomats, mandatory briefings for any species visiting Earth, warning labels on all Earth biological samples, trade restrictions on potentially dangerous fauna, most significantly, a new designation for humanity itself. Humans are classified as a survivor species. This is a new category, created specifically for sapiens from Class 4 worlds. It acknowledges both your capabilities and your origins. You survived what most species cannot. That makes you unique in the galaxy. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives seemed pleased, others concerned. A few appeared genuinely frightened. Furthermore, Oren continued, Earth's application for council membership is approved. Full voting rights, access to all standard trade agreements, diplomatic immunity for your ambassadors. Welcome to the Galactic Council, humanity. David felt something unlock in his chest. Approved. After weeks of humiliation, mockery, and desperate demonstrations, they had done it. Earth was in, however, Oren added, and the chamber quieted. We impose one condition. Earth must establish educational programs to help other species understand your world. We need to know how to interact with humans safely, how to visit Earth without triggering defensive responses from your fauna, how to trade and negotiate with beings from a death world. We accept, David said immediately. We'll establish full cultural exchange programs. Any species that wants to understand Earth and humanity, we'll teach them. As the formal session concluded, representatives approached the human delegation. Some offered congratulations. Others asked nervous questions about Earth's creatures. A few requested immediate meetings to discuss trade opportunities, clearly seeing economic value in Death World resources. Dr. Halrim approached last, looking genuinely humble. Ambassador Ross, I want to apologize again. My paper about Earth's fauna was published based on incomplete data. I'm issuing a full retraction and writing a new analysis acknowledging Earth's true classification. David shook his hand, or the Draylen equivalent. We appreciate that. Maybe next time read all 40,000 pages before drawing conclusions. Halrim actually laughed. I've learned that lesson. I'm actually requesting assignment to Earth if you'll have me. I want to study your ecosystems properly, particularly the honey badgers. We'll arrange it, though I recommend you wear protective gear. Henry isn't the most agreeable research subject. As the crowds dispersed, Arya found David one more time. I got approval to join your delegation permanently, if you'll have me. I want to be the liaison between Earth and the Council. Help other species understand what a death world really means. We'd be honored, Patricia said. You're the one who actually read our submission. You saved Earth's reputation. Arya smiled. I just read the documentation. Henry did the heavy lifting. Later, in the human delegation's quarters, David stood at the window watching Earth rotate below. Ben brought him coffee, and they stood together in comfortable silence. You know what the funny part is? Ben finally said. We were so focused on showing them our predators, making them understand that Earth was dangerous, but what really convinced them was a 12-kilogram creature that just refused to quit. David smiled. That's because Henry represents something bigger. He's not the strongest or fastest or most impressive creature on Earth, but he survives anyway because he doesn't know how to give up. That's the real lesson of Earth. It's not about having the biggest teeth or the strongest claws. It's about refusing to stop until you've won. Very human of him, Ben observed. Or we're very honey badger of us, David replied. We like to think we domesticated Earth's creatures. Maybe the truth is we learned from them, took their best traits and made them our own. Wolves taught us teamwork. Bears taught us to protect territory. Sharks taught us efficiency. And honey badgers taught us that size doesn't matter if your attitude is big enough. His console chimed with incoming messages. 3 trade delegations requesting meetings, 5 species asking about cultural exchange programs, and 1 message from Earth Wildlife Services asking if Henry had behaved himself during the demonstrations. David typed a quick reply. Henry was perfect. He represented Earth exactly as we needed. Tell his handlers he's earned extra treats. Then he pulled up Earth's new official designation in the Council database. Class 4 environment, survivor species, full member status. It had taken a honey badger to make the galaxy understand what humanity already knew. Earth was beautiful, diverse, and absolutely lethal. And humans had not only survived it but had thrived. Somewhere on Earth, honey badgers were raiding beehives, fighting off lions, and generally living their lives with zero concern for what anyone else thought was possible. David raised his coffee, in a silent toast to Henry and every other creature that had made Earth what it was. Thank you for making us survivors, he thought. Thank you for making us human. Outside the window, Earth continued its eternal rotation, peaceful and blue and utterly deadly, exactly as it had always been.